Okay, so good afternoon and welcome to the Southampton Council on Aging Board Wednesday, January 5th, 2022 meeting. And in attendance, we have our COA Director, Joan. We have Janet Kane, Lori Loisel, Jim Palermo, Sylvia Galvan, Josie Alderman, and our Select Board Liaison, Maureen Groden. So welcome everybody. And I'm glad everybody's no dents in anybody's vehicles today.
Right, nope.
Nope, good.
And
Everybody.
We were happy for Zoom.
Yeah.
Lori's in the south and Josie's in the vest.
In the vest, I get it. And poor Joan had the treacherous drive into work today, so.
Oh, dear.
Okay, so the meeting's called to order at 4:02. It was 4:02 at the time. And open time to the public, and I do not see anyone from the public. Okay, here comes Jonathan.
Quick question. Did I hear you say Yvonne?
No,
No. Oh, I must have been hearing something. Never mind.
Galvan. I said Sylvia Galvan.
Oh, I was gonna say, I don't see Yvonne here.
Who's like Yvonne anyway, so, okay, yes. Okay, so there's no one here for open time to the public, so do we have any welcome Jonathan, any discussion on the minutes from December?
Good.
So do we have a motion to approve?
I move.
So
I
you
second.
to approve and Lori seconds. All in favor, roll call. I'll just call out your names and just answer yes, I, or whatever. Lori,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Sylvia,
Aye.
Josie,
Aye.
Jonathan,
Aye.
and I from Janet. Okay, and I thought for sure that Jim would say whatever. And I set him up and he.
I was
said,
gonna start singing, just call out my name.
Okay.
I like that one.
Okay, let me bring up the treasurer's report. So as most of you probably know, Nancy took a new job and she works on Wednesdays from like 10 to 7. So although she's working with us and meeting with Joan on the treasurer's report and we review it yesterday together, she's unable to make the actual meeting itself. So we got to figure out what we want to do with that because she's a good part of our number. Okay, let me find that sheet because I have a few things open.
There it is.
Okay. All right, so I think she got a few more things in, right, from,
I gave them to her, but I don't see them, so I
Yeah.
gave them to her late yesterday, so.
unless I took the wrong one, Joan, so that's always a
No,
possibility.
I don't know that it was reflected. So what we're missing is the last 2 weeks in December for salaries.
Let me go see if, because it would have replaced my
She
other.
sent a second set.
Yes, she did. Did everybody get a chance to look at it? Because I think that probably included it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think
I
I've
looked at
got
one
the
of 'em.
right one.
I think so. I mean, I'm trying to remember after I saw
I'm gonna
them.
open up the one that I got last
Right.
evening.
I
Yeah, it
think
looks
that's
like-
the correct
I
one.
think it's the same one. Yep. Okay, good. All right. So, obviously, we're tracking on salaries, we're tracking on town wages because Darlene, we had the position has been vacated since early October. COA, the wages and expenses from the state formula grant, we're at 26%, so we're certainly under budget there.
Okay, now those, that includes the temporary.
There is no, the temporary will be out of the town wages and the temporary starts next week because the PCF just got signed off on last night by the select board.
Okay, I thought there was somebody already working in it. But that's-
No, no. we
Okay.
don't have anything, waiting for the paperwork go through the process, so. Right, Joan, she starts on Monday?
Tuesday. She
Tuesday.
works Tuesday,
Oh, that's
Wednesday.
right,
She's
Tuesday, Wednesday,
Darlene's hours.
right. So I don't get to come in and fill in the seat on Wednesday mornings anymore.
No, but I did appreciate that very much so.
Okay, so again, here for this, the state formula grant, the volunteer coordinator wages are out of this column D. Part of, I think, is it 3 hours of the administrative assistance? And any specialty group program costs. Let me see what's in here. Is anything in here other than Flo's hours is pretty much it. The previous week for December, get out of here. Flo's hours as well. So nothing else really coming from the state formula grant for the month of December. So the fritter wages, obviously are the van drivers. So we have Ken, working a little over 15 hours a week, it looks like, and Tim working 13 and a half hours a week approximately. So that's their pay for December. And then the difference down here, there were, Ken worked a lot, they both worked a lot more hours in the week of the 18th, Joan, it looks like.
Yes, there was one week, which is the 4th, where they had very little,
Mhm.
and then they did make up for it after that.
Okay, so, I mean, it's good to get good usage out of the van. All right. Any questions on December's numbers so far?
Nope.
Okay, so local revolving fund, that's when we paid Myrna for the line dance and Angelica for the yoga, correct,
Yes,
Joan? Okay.
yes.
And then we brought in $120 from the fees for the line dance and for the chair yoga fees and the exercise equipment. So that came to 120 in our local revolving fund. Okay, nothing in town expense for the month of December. And so the Zoom subscription out of the CARES fund, it seems to be it's reflected in 2 places, but maybe Nancy just moved it over. And and then the payment for 2 months for the tech support person that we've had come in once a week, which seems to be going very well, right, Joan?
Yes, very well received. We actually, if you've seen the January newsletter, the front page, made the front page, a nice article.
Yeah, it was good because we had people talk about their experiences. Thank you, Jim, for working with us on that as well.
It was my pleasure.
Okay. And then from the memory grant, or the Memory Cafe grant, so far we paid out to Linda O'Neill for the music that was provided at the December Memory Cafe, Joan, right?
That's right.
Okay, so, all right. Any questions on the treasurer's report at this point in time?
No, I move to accept.
I'll
Okay.
second that.
I
Okay,
just have
Joan.
one question about the CARES Act.
Mhm.
It looks like 75% has been expended. Was there something else that was ordered before the 31st of December that we can count on?
Yes, I believe we spent 500 and change on some more books.
Some activity books
So
for
activity
seniors.
books, trivia books. So I will, I think the warrant's due tomorrow. I'll make sure it's in by 10 o'clock.
Okay, thanks.
So that should be pretty close to spent at that point, Rini. Okay, do we have a first and a second? So let's do a roll call vote. Lori,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Sylvia,
Aye.
Josie,
Aye.
Jonathan,
Aye.
and Janet, aye. Okay, thank you. All right. Okay, is there any friends update at all? Have they met since our last meeting? met
They
before.
have, but Jonathan wasn't there. I don't know.
That's a planning meeting for the Friends meeting. Jonathan isn't.
Not the planning meeting, yeah. The last meeting was back in November, I think, the monthly
Oh, that's
meeting,
right. That's right.
until next week.
Yeah, the annual meeting is next week. It'll be a hybrid meeting because it's the annual meeting, so people can either dial in. And Joan, I think Francine's gonna write up something for you to send out along with the Zoom link, because I'm not sure everybody grasped a calendar link and probably understood the whole goal of your email for some of the members. So we'll take a look at that. She'll be working on that probably tomorrow. Okay.
Mhm.
So thank you for sending that out too, for those people to know that it'll be offered hybrid. Okay, anything else? So that's kind of it for the Friends. Their annual meeting is next Tuesday. If anybody's a friend and wants to attend. They do election of officers. I think there may be a couple positions open. So, all right. Moving on to the update from the COA director. Let me just bring up your thingamajiggy here, if I can find it here. There we go. Your report.
First of all,
And
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
Yes,
Happy
Happy
New
New
Year.
Year.
We're looking at a bright future, a lot happening.
So the activity's been good, Joan. It looks like, with the people that are 80 people served, what does that mean exactly?
So either they came in for service or they came in to be part of activities. So that's a collective number. I could break it down to
No,
those.
that's okay. That's fine. You can explain. That's good.
Yeah.
And you're only open 14 days because you were closed the last week of the month, right?
That's right.
Okay. All right. So 104 rides, is that pretty normal for month
Yeah,
after month?
We've
or-
been averaging about that. I
Okay,
mean, the numbers have crept up a little bit. They did have rides the last week of the month as well.
okay. And you went to, in December, you went to have the temporary admin assistant job for the PCF approval, right? To the Personnel Policies and Procedures Board. And this was in December, so we're talking about December right now, so.
Mhm.
All right. And 18 people in attendance for the Memory Cafe.
Yes.
And it doesn't say Memory Cafe here, so.
Oh, yeah, Memory Cafe. I was cutting and pasting and I guess I cut too much.
Okay,
Yes, the Memory Cafe.
all right. And
Where was that? I'm sorry.
was at-
2016.
yeah, it was at the senior center.
Oh,
the Memory Cafe.
okay.
Yes,
I've got it.
it's just in partnership with Golden Moments Spa participants, so that was. There were
I have
18
a question about Memory Cafe. Would it be appropriate to raise it now?
Sure.
Okay with me.
My next door neighbor, her husband he's been sick for a long time, but he really can't leave the house right now. And he's suffering, memory loss and so forth. And she was asking whether a caregiver in her status would find any benefit from the Memory Cafe.
meaning
in other
coming
words-
by herself.
Yeah,
It's really,
Uh,
it's not set up that way. It's set up for the person themselves and their caretaker. It's not
Okay.
like a daycare where you're just, it's not a support group. It's,
okay.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
I'll let her know. Thank you.
But
Okay.
if they are kind of stuck at home, I'm thinking maybe that hybrid model, maybe we'll get to, like our next activity is a computer link. It's old time sing along that we were supposed to do back in 2020, and it's going to be it'll be hybrid because it's going to be on the computer, and then we'll have folks that are in the senior center.
Yeah.
But the computer is the person that's performing.
Roger Tinknell is his name.
Yeah, so he's the person that's on the computer. It's not that we're having a Zoom link for people to participate remotely.
Not yet, but
No,
it might
okay.
be coming. It might be coming to that. Let's see how the
Maybe, yeah.
friends meeting goes first.
Yeah, okay. And then Joan on the 21st gave her sort of annual report to the select board.
And how did that go?
Did a great job. Excellent.
Oh, nice.
Thank you.
I would have supported you, Joan, but this day I flew south.
It's you were all there in spirit, and I really give most of the credit to Janet. She was in the office and helped me, get the outline and get it all together. So You were all there in spirit, believe me, and Janet was right behind me.
It's making, things behind Joan's head, so I wasn't. But
20
I think did a
years.
nice job. Very good. Okay, so your current priorities, you want to go through these, Joan? Because that's kind of, probably some of that is on our.
Yeah, so
agenda as well.
Finally, we're filling the position for the admin. I hadn't really pursued it because we were kind of focusing on the program coordinator, assistant director, whatever position, we were trying to focus on that. But by and large, we really needed more hours in the department. So I'm very happy to say that Mary, who was working for the last 2 months under the tax work-off program, and she's really trained. She's very efficient. She's very, self-initiating. She's going to take the position starting next week, and she's allowed to work for 3 months. And hopefully we'll have the other position filled before that. But until then, at least we'll have some
Anyway, right?
coverage in the office.
What is her Mary's last name?
Can I say it?
No, can you not, because you revealed something that's confidential?
Oh,
So-
okay,
We can't give her last name at this point.
right.
Okay. But we can, yeah, we probably wouldn't include it at this moment.
All right, that's fine.
We can chat later.
No, I understand.
Yep.
That's great.
It'll be in the next newsletter.
All right.
Okay, you want to talk a little, so you talked a little bit about the Memory Cafe. So go ahead, sorry.
We still want to do some more programming with, the Memory Cafe. We want to expand. Of course, now, as I say that, we're scaling back. You probably heard at the select board meeting that we're, even though we're open for our regular hours, we're not allowed to have food or anything, refreshments, because they have to take their masks off to enjoy them. So because of the virus being increased, we have to take that part. That's a huge part of the Memory Cafe, bless you.
Mhm.
And so we're going to do what we can. The programming has been terrific. The staff that they bring have been marvelous. So, I really can't imagine the program at this point without them. So, and we did gain 2 other couples, so that was good.
And and we have to make sure we have a cutoff, no more than 20 people in the room for the.
Yeah,
that
what I
include-
could have is some of my volunteers that were helping with lunches. I just will ask them not to come that day.
Okay. Yep.
Because
Understand.
that's a big process in itself, just serving, 15 people or 18 people.
So do you want to, we're on, well, since you brought it up, can you discuss some of the, I don't know if there's anything else that we've missed. So 20 people, no food or beverage, mask required at all times. What else was did-
Social distancing, so we're allowing only 4 people at a table versus 6. And even when the exercise group, we're doing more social distancing, more sanitizing of surfaces and doorknobs,
And for now, it's for the month of January, right? So
that's right, till the end of the month.
hopefully we can go back to a little more normalcy at that point in time. So any questions on the kind of the new operational, because that's on the agenda, but the new operational recommendations for the center? Any thoughts or questions?
Did they get a copy or?
I
I
didn't
didn't-
see a final. I just saw draft 2, so I never saw a final, but we should probably get something out. I'd like to make it so it could be posted and put up in the center as well. So I can try to work on that tomorrow a little bit.
I posted the one I have. It's only at
Okay.
the front door, but, and my staff is aware, my flow
Okay.
is aware.
Okay. Any other thoughts from anybody? We're good? Okay.
We're glad
Uh-uh.
we don't have to shut down. I know the comparison was made to the school, the school, they don't want to have to close the school. They want to keep it open, but keep it open safely. And we're the same. We want to be able to stay open, but safely.
Yeah, and some centers actually closed and some are doing modified like we're doing, I think if we can prevent people from being isolated for a month, and January is typically a slow month, so I think, if we're gonna have to do this, it's a good month to do it, right? So,
I did speak to somebody from Easthampton. Why they closed was because they have older building and older ventilation and heating systems, so they felt that it wasn't adequate.
okay. Good to know. Okay, next bullet is the
I
program.
have a question.
Yes,
too.
Jim, sorry.
Are we still engaged with Triad?
So Triad has taken a hiatus. Triad is the group that did the Sand for Seniors. It's a safety program where we give out buckets of sand. So we had a difficult time getting that program off the ground this year. We finally were able to pull it all together. But I spoke with the sheriff's department and actually police and fire. They're all straight out with the pandemic. So we'll probably resume in the spring, maybe May.
Okay. Again, my neighbor was asking about getting sand. But
So he
we're
can-
not doing,
I have extra sand. Yep. Just all he has to do is call in, or you can tell me the address. I'll make sure it well, don't say it on the recording, but
Yeah.
give me a call tomorrow and we'll make sure he gets it. I have 3 extra buckets at the center.
or I can pick it up if you'd like.
Do you think you can pick it up? It's pretty heavy.
Well, we'll see.
If you want to load it into Jim's car, Joan, right?
Yes,
So-
the fire department will deliver, the fire department
fire-
delivered a few, and our van drivers have delivered a few. So if you want, one of our van drivers can drop it off on one of their runs.
Okay, good. Well, I'll check with you tomorrow anyway.
Good.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, so the program coordinator position, it was scored Monday night. And it was scored as a 4, which is the same level as the administrative assistant position. So we were a little disappointed with that, but it does give us a pay range that that we can probably attract someone with experience and with some knowledge and with kind of the background we've requested. So I don't know. I know, Josie, you were there. I don't know if you want to add anything or you'd rather just not.
Well, I wasn't supposed to really do anything with it.
Right.
This was one had to recuse myself. I
Correct.
will say that they're using the same old scoring thing that when Jim and I were part of the committee were using, and even back then it wasn't all that great. It doesn't, I think we did the best we could with it, but between having the kind of old scoring method and apparently the pay ranges were sort of jerry-rigged, I think. I don't know, I shouldn't say that probably.
I think
they're- Huh?
they adjusted the pay scale, I think, the previous PPPB to sort of, so we're not starting out at 2017 rates, we're starting out at more closely 2022 rates. Is that accurate statement, or I don't know what they used? Because
Well, I didn't actually have, I didn't receive the pay ranges. I don't have that.
Okay,
But they were, in order to get them, actually, the one I did see was the 2017. And then they tried to do some adjustments with that. And I don't really know.
I think
How that was done.
my take is that I'm sorry for interrupting, but my take, I was new to the process. John is new to the process, and you had to recluse yourself. So I think we weren't prepared. I mean, I think we should have been able to go through the scoring procedure before we presented it so that we had an idea of what we were looking at, because I felt lost. And
Well, there was only one book. and there was one score sheet. So I didn't get to look at it. Even Donna, I don't think got to look at it. And it was not an ideal, as far as I'm concerned, an ideal way of doing it. Although I think what they came up with, at least in terms of the pay scale, was probably okay. But, you know, I personally would have tried to have it score higher, but with that particular scoring book, it didn't
Lend itself.
give you the options that we needed, frankly.
Yeah.
So I don't know if they'll ever, you know, want to redo this whole thing again, but
And I think
No.
it's tough on a committee of 5 that there are only
Pardon?
2, it's a committee of 5, 3
And there's
members
3 of
and
us.
what is a committee of 5, a board of
Yeah.
5. There are 3 of you and one has to recuse themselves. So the whole scoring falls on the backs of 2 individuals. And,
Right.
and that's pretty tough, I think, a difficult way to do it. So we may revisit it, but I don't know if Rini feels differently, but I'm gonna try to proceed with the PRF and we'll talk a little bit about the wage recommendations from our group. I mean, again, we only are advisory, but I know we have Joan's ear. And so my goal, I don't want to delay the process, but I do think there are some maybe some opportunities down the road. I don't know, but yeah, it's hard for somebody to score it if they don't have the wording right in front of it, and to ask Joan, who's sitting on the side, and read it to you and then not see it, you know, it's challenging. And so there's no blame anywhere, but I think it was a close to impossible situation. And maybe it would have come out as a 4 again, but the goal was to up the position, not end up at the same place. And I don't know what we did to end up back where we started. So
Because I did read the job description a while ago, but I thought it was very good. I thought it was a good, solid job description. But anyway, it is what it is at the
I
moment.
think I was told that today that there's some areas that bring the points right up, and I thought maybe education was one of them, although the one in the clerk's office who's a 7 only needs a high school diploma or a 6. So it's not necessarily your education. So I'm not sure how the scoring works.
yeah,
I think the instrument that we use, the scoring instrument, is really not intended for public company. Anyway,
Municipality.
it's private sector, and yeah, and it is, well, as Josie mentioned, it just doesn't really fit a lot of the positions the municipality has. It's unique,
Anyway, we don't want to belabor it.
yeah.
right?
So we're gonna and again, we'll, as we get down to it, after we get off of Joan's report, I'll bring up, I did do some calculations, and I wanted to present it to you folks and get your feedback based on the pay scale. Is, do you remember off the top of your head, Joan, 14 something to?
Right. 14, I believe, like 25, which is now the minimum wage.
This is not a
to-
minimum wage job, but anyway,
To 20
22 something.
to 22, 25 or 22, 22.
Do you get anything in writing back?
No,
Okay, so do they, I mean, so that we have captured everything? I guess, I don't know. I don't remember us ever doing it when I was on the PPPB either, so.
do they have minutes? I mean, I don't know how they capture.
Well, I mean,
it.
but for the particular job, I think there should be a scoring sheet, and I would ask for a copy of it.
Okay, I'll
Okay.
see if there's such a thing.
Yeah, there is, so.
And-
Anybody else? Go ahead, Jim.
No, I was just trying to remember the, what's a 14-hour per week position, so it's not benefited, right?
Right, correct, it's not benefit.
Yeah. No, I would, sure.
So the last bullet on Joan's thing is about the Parsons Estate, and we are going to meet tomorrow. We did visit South Hadley, right? Or sorry, Hadley.
Hadley.
Since our last board meeting. So the group of 4 or 5 folks that are kind of informally doing some exploratory have continued to move forward. We're going to visit South Hadley. Some of us are going to visit South Hadley, and a couple other, and we've come up with some formats to collect data, so we get some, be able to kind of be consistent with our meeting. So that's a separate meeting, so I won't bog you guys down too much in that at this point till we get, you know, a little bit more information. Is that fair?
Mhm.
Everybody?
Mhm.
All right. Okay,
And Flo gave her report too.
yes, and everybody.
It's on
has a
the other
copy of it,
side.
So, yeah, I don't, everybody
Okay.
gets the copy, so I don't. try to
Okay,
take time.
that's fine.
All right, so, so we talked about the center operations from the, and we'll get copies of the changes that we're doing for the month of January. So is everybody comfortable with what we've discussed on that, or any comments or thoughts for January? Moving forward, other than everybody stay safe and hope that, it sounds like we're not, I mean, we want to make sure that we protect our seniors in multiple ways. It's kind of like the kids going to school. It's good to go to school. But they need to be safe, and we want our seniors to come in, but they need to be safe. So, I mean, I should say, but we need to be safe. Sorry.
Mhm.
Okay. Anything else from anybody? Okay. So the update on the open positions, we talked about that. I'm going to bring up my recommendation and bounce it off of you guys. This is just kind of my thought, talking to Joan for a salary range, if I can find it here. Too many documents open. For the program coordinator. Okay. So these are, I did some calculations because you know, we have a certain amount of money in the town budget. And then we have the state formula grant, we have the FRITA grant, we have the memory cafe, and we have, you know, for a total of 14 hours. So for the top of it is option 1. We're looking at an hourly wage of $18.50. The number of hours that would come out of the town budget would be 6.02. I mean, you just have to make the numbers work. For the state formula grant at $18.50, the number of hours that would come out of that is just under 4.5. For the FRITA grant, an hour and a half per week, which is pretty much what, you know, Joan probably spends on the FRITA grant right now, or managing the van driver. So that would kind of transition to the program coordinator. 2 hours, this is per week, I'm sorry, 2 hours per week for the memory cafe, because that would total, it may not always be per week, but we spread the 8 hours for the memory cafe out over, you know, for weekly payrolls. And then, so that would be a total of 14 hours for the memory cafe, and a total salary range of about basically $13,520. The other option would be at $19 an hour, and then we would have to just kind of move the numbers around to make that true. You know, it's, do we want to do $18.50? Do we want to do 19? We can go up to 22. We may have to, based on the person, if we get somebody with tremendous amount of hours and we have this opportunity or tremendous amount of experience, we may fluctuate it more than 19 because we have a range to work with. But this was just some sampling of how I felt we could support the job moving forward. I know the program coordinator position in Hadley is fully funded through the state formula grant. So I have a feeling they have a little bit more expense budget, because I'm not sure we could necessarily fund it fully. Certainly that would be our entire state formula grant, right? So, but anyway, so thoughts or comments or?
So we can only suggest a salary, right? it has to be, we can present it, but they have to be looked at to see if it's a fair wage.
I don't know who makes that decision other than you and the select board.
Well, do you have a, any sort of grid as to what an equivalent position would be paid in various towns?
That's one of, I was gonna say, Josie, that's one of the things Joan and I are working on. We're trying to get data from, like, what does a woman in Hadley make per hour? So we're looking at different communities
Yes,
to
we
see.
don't know.
South Hadley, I think, has a relatively new program coordinator too. So yeah, we're looking at kind of similar Western Mass communities to make some comparisons. Joan is.
But it's all over the board. It's surprising.
But,
Yeah.
you know, I'm-
If you've got to present this to the select board, my recommendation would be we start at 1850, and at the end of the probationary period, it will go to 19.
I'm not sure that you can do that. I mean, we have to budget for the whole 19. So.
All
I'm
right,
not-
then I would recommend the 19 to attract, in other words, I'm trying to make it as attractive as possible to a qualified candidate.
I mean, right now, my understanding is we can't put on the PRF, we can put the salary range, but we can't necessarily put on the, a specific dollar amount.
Right.
Are you
we
talking
were-
about the posting? The
Yeah,
posting or the-
Well, the posting doesn't include, a salary range,
Mhm.
which is, I don't know how you post a job and don't include a salary, I mean, it should have a
Well,
salary range.
why doesn't the posting include a salary range? I thought we did.
Well, last time we posted for the admin assistant, they told me to take it out.
Well, that was just a dollar amount, Joan.
Right.
So I guess I would get clarification from Ed, through Ed, to see if we could post the salary range on it.
Okay,
Yeah, I would think posting a salary range would be fair,
Mhm.
and then commensurate with experience or
yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
Can it go higher than 19?
It can go, I think it can go up to 22, but then I do have to look at other positions in town. I mean, there
And I
aren't
don't
many-
think we would want to start somebody at the top of the range. Because
I
you're
would- I
stuck
would
there,
agree
then
with
you
you.
have no room to move.
So they
Right.
moved to grade 5, Josie.
Pardon?
They moved to grade 5. Once you're hired in this town, it's not like we give steps out. We give 2% out every year. It's not like, well, next year you get the next step, and the year after that, you get the next step. You get 2%. There are no
If you're
steps.
lucky. But
So if you start at $21, how many years you have to work before you get to $22.50?
do you
You know,
have?
excuse me, but that makes no sense whatsoever. I
What?
mean, if a job is
It
rated
is.
at a level 4,
Mhm.
Yeah,
and the next year it becomes a level 5, that doesn't make sense. You
Right.
work your way up through the grade.
You don't work
Uh,
your way up for the grade. That's the whole point. We do not give raises based on steps.
but you'd still be within you'd get your 2%, but you'd still be within the range.
Right, and the whole grade goes up. I mean, ideally, in fact, we did it once when Art was there, that we went back several years and modified the wage matrix
Mhm.
to reflect the 2.5 raises, that they were 2.5% raises that were granted year after year, or 2%, whatever it was.
Which took us to 2017, and I'm not sure what range they're using
Right.
for.
But so in other words, if somebody is earning $18 an hour, the next year, they would automatically get 2% more.
Yeah,
But
maybe.
that doesn't mean you can't move them through the grade range or through the steps.
You don't go up a step. I've never seen in the town anybody go up a step.
Well, that's the problem with this town is, well, I won't go there again, but there's no central policy. But
Yeah,
I think that as an agency, a department, that you could make an argument to the select board that the person has progressed and should go, I mean, to the, yeah, select board, I guess, should be raised a step.
Rini has her
Let me
hand-
just comment on that
just a
for
minute.
1 second.
Wait, Rini has her hand up and she's been up for a little bit, so could I call on her?
Yes.
And I'll get back to you. Thanks.
Yeah, there's so many things that have happened with the PQB since, Jim and Art, Josie, you're all were there, so you know how things are done. I think there's a chart that's been used. We have to follow the personnel policies of the town. So there aren't currently any steps unless you're a contracted employee, like the highway, police, dispatch. Otherwise, no, it's only a COLA. There's no steps. And the PQB has been using this form both for grading positions, job descriptions, and a lot of department heads go and try to get it upgraded so that their employees can get more money. And I think that's what directors do. They're supposed to support their employees and try to enhance however they can their position in there to keep them and all that. The Jacob study was the one that was done that I think is a lot more valid. We used it in the select board to give extra raises to try to make some progress on the wage imbalance in town. And so last year, a number of positions that were below, the lowest in the range that's appropriate ended up getting an additional raise. I think that the only way we can move forward as a town, and I'm hoping the cost efficiency committee, the new committee, comes up with a solution, is to really outsource or do regional HR. Otherwise, it's just a small town with a lot of people that have influence. There are things that, very well-meaning people do around. It's just hard to make it come out even and fair and across the board and all that. So I think that I was disappointed that the position wasn't scored higher, but I realized that the tool that's being used is not really definitive enough or whatever to be able to pick up the fact that it's not an administrative assistant position now, it's a program coordinator. So I was just looking just now at the Jacob study, even though we haven't adopted as a town. The problem was the 2017 scale. The PQB at the time never added in the years when there was a COLA. So I don't even know what was used and how updated it was and who was hired under what scale. But the select board voted to use the scale that Art Lawrence had presented. So if I was to look at the various categories, which I do think there's some validity in. So for example, the highest level is fire chief, police chief, town administrator, highway superintendent, water superintendent. The next level down is COA director, library director, town accountant, treasurer collector, town clerk, principal assessor, building commissioner, health director. So, I think there's a lot of validity in this. And the next one down would be health agent, youth librarian, water technician. So I would frankly see this position as being the one below the COA director, all the director and department heads. And if I look at the current salary of these folks, again, this hasn't been added into the raises that were given for this particular fiscal year. So add another 2% to these numbers. But this is what the current employees in this group is. And there are like assistant to the highway superintendent, assistant to the town accountant, assistant to the town administrator, assistant to the treasurer collector, water technician, youth librarian, health agent. The ranges sound like this: 1746, 1928, 1623, 1899, 1887, 2282, and an outlier 2810, which is the water technician. So add another 2% to those numbers. And I think that what you said, what we're talking about is the right range. So I think what I heard is 16 to 22. And I think that what was mentioned about either 18 or 19 sounds reasonable. If we get a phenomenal candidate that might have an interest in being mentored into a director down the road someday, we might want to entice them by having them come in a little bit higher, like at least 20. But I think that if you agree that this category is, about where this person or this position measures up to other people in town, it comes out to about 19, I think.
So
you.
we're,
Unfortunately, the
There's
scoring, it doesn't reflect that
I
compared.
know, I know.
Yeah,
I was
there's a
just trying to Make
disconnect there.
sense of it, though.
So
Do,
Lori asked to speak. Can I just squeeze Lori back in? Because I shut her off before. Sorry.
I'm not sure I remember. I was fascinated by what Rini was saying and I loved every word of it. But going back to what Jim was saying about steps, that's opening up a whole can of worms. You know, the town now gives everyone 2%, end of discussion. Everybody gets their 2%. You bring in the steps thing, and someone's going to argue, well, I want my person to be X steps. Next person wants X steps. I just think you're opening up another can of worms we don't need right now.
you know,
And
and
that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah, deep down, I agree with you, Lori. Everything we do in personnel seems to open up a can of worms
Yeah,
because there really isn't a clearly articulated procedures and regulations. And, you know, the job descriptions, some of them are more creative writing than reflective of actual circumstances. So it does open up a can of worms. But
I will say that we had a big discussion just about the title, because we talked about assistant to the director or assistant director, which may have elevated that position, but we said, no, we wanted a program coordinator. So it may be, you know, to our fault. I'm not sure.
yeah,
Okay,
Well,
Josie.
I think
raised
it'll
her
be
hand.
perfect if we can outsource human resources.
Can I just share with
I think that'd be
everybody?
an excellent idea.
Yes, we have a DLTA grant and we have people working on that to get some outsourcing regionally for the town. So that is underway and Josie has her hands up, so.
well, in most businesses, those certainly the ones I've worked for, you might have, there might be an annual cost of living at 2% that everybody gets. But there was also merit reviews.
Mhm.
And you actually reviewed we actually reviewed every single employee. And then based on that review, some people got merit increases.
Mhm.
So that you could work your way up in the range rather than being, you know, stuck, which sometimes happened. And, you know, right now there's such a disconnect. I don't know, Rainey, if you happen to have the pay ranges, maybe you could send me, because what I saw, it started with, I don't know what level, but there were 1150, I think, was at the bottom. And a couple of the ranges started at 1150. And there's no way we could start, we've got a
Well, we're
The-
increasing everybody to minimum wage every year, so that's obsolete.
yeah,
oh,
right,
yeah, but that's what I'm
that's-
saying, the pay range that we're working off of or trying to is way out of whack with what reality is.
Yeah, I think that's
So,
what PQB needs to do, because right now, we just voted last night to give the firefighters the minimum wage that started January 1 in Massachusetts, which is $14.25, and the election workers and library substitutes, and I think
A COA volunteer coordinator.
CNA volunteer coordinator all have to go up to the minimum. And then we started with the minimum, level employees last year and gave all of them an additional 2%. The current personnel policies, the town say that anybody can do an evaluation of their employees, and if they feel like they deserve a merit increase, can get an additional 2%. Very few people take advantage of that personnel policy. And I've been on the select board, I think 5.5 years now, 4.5 years. And 2 of the years, no COLAs were given because we were in such dire straits, and it's terrible. So we just try every year. I mean, I'm hoping this year we can, also work on, increasing, wages. I think we want to retain people. We want to be fair. It's just, there's so many things that need to be fixed when it comes to PQB and across the board, like wages in town. It's frustrating.
Well, that's why we do need, and Jim and I were kind of pushing for this way back when, but there really should be a full-time or at least a good part-time HR department that can handle this sort of thing and can do the kind of encourage and organize things so that every employee gets an annual review.
Yep.
Because
Yeah, we
it's
can't do it without an organized process, right?
right.
Yeah. Okay, Jim has his hand up and Jim? And he froze.
Don't
I want to
freeze,
hear
Jim.
from the new person.
Jim, your hand is up, but you froze in time. Up there you are.
Oh,
You're
there I am. Okay. The Personnel Board published a personnel manual that was approved by the Select Board, was adopted by, I believe, town meeting, and it should be a formal document. If you go on the web page for the town, they don't have the redacted final version of the rules. So I'm not sure that everybody in town really knows what the procedures are for, with regard to personnel. And I think we're all over the place, including the fact that I think that at one time we were not sure what wage scale chart was actually being used in town. I mean, everybody was coming in with different stuff. In our efforts, I think Josie and I and Art worked very hard to try to get people to, agree on the particular procedures. And we run into problems in this town, such as elected boards and enterprise zones have great autonomy. And so there's not a centralized control over personnel, and therefore it's not always, it does not always appear to be as fair as it is. Let's put it that way.
Jim, I would say that I think every department head does get a copy of the rules and regulations from what
I'd like, yeah, and if they do, it's great because it's not available online to the public.
Right, yeah, and I think they're actually modifying, in the process of modifying that at this moment as well, so.
Well, but if it's modified, it's, it's a bylaw, really. It's been approved.
No, it's not a bylaw. There are different bylaws. That's a whole different process. It has to go through the same process we went through when we updated it as the Personnel Policies and Procedures Board. It'll go through the same exact process.
Well, you say that with great certitude. Are you sure?
Because I heard it last night when I listened to the Select Board meeting and the report from them. Yes.
Yeah,
Yep, I did.
but okay.
am-
But I mean,
I am sure.
I would suggest that's the Select Board's opinion.
I think it
I'm
was.
not sure. I don't know what the procedures are.
All
That's all
right.
I'm trying to say.
Okay, so we're getting really off topic, but Rini, did you have your hand up again, or is that from before?
Yeah, that was before. I'll
Okay,
put it down.
Okay, and Jim, if you could put your hand down too, that would be great. All right.
It took me all this time to figure out how to put it up.
I know, it's been a request. This wasn't working, so, I saw you though. So anyway, so is everybody comfortable with the $18.50 to $19 and the breakdown the whole goal was I think the scale is from 14 something to 22 something. I would, based on who we hired, I would like to be able to target this amount, and this is basically how we could break it down to cover the cost.
I would make a motion to approve your recommendation.
I'll
I would
second
second
it, but I also say it seems like a lot of work to have to, take 2 hours out of the memory cafe, whatever, these different columns to get it all in line.
I'm
pay the
happy.
person, But if that's the only way to do it, then.
I'm
let's do
happy
it.
to suggestions. Like I said, we could take more out of it, out of the select state formula grant, but then we have less for other programs. And really the hours will be divided working on those various areas. So I mean, it's 4 areas. And again, I'm open to taking it, the 6 hours or whatever, 7 hours out of the town budget, and then maybe increasing that amount for next year, requesting it, and then taking the rest out of the state formula grant. But then we are limiting our funding from that. And that really becomes Joan's thoughts, not mine. This is just my, scribbling. Rini, did you have another question?
No, I'm gonna
Statement.
put it down. I was just looking through some documents and some wage stuff, and I just wonder if it would be worth just posting it at 18.50 to 20. Just because I think it might attract people that might have some, more program coordinator experience.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean that that's what has to be offered, but it just might alert more people.
Okay, it all depends on what we're, I think, allowed to do, and I'm not sure who makes that final decision, because when Joan did post the hourly rate, she was asked to remove it. So, and who asked you to remove it, Joan?
It was at the PPPB.
Yeah, it was John and Donna.
Okay, so when when you submit the PRF, we can come up with a range, and if the group is comfortable with like an $18 to $20 range, commiserate with work experience,
The only question I have is, I assume that when you did this workup, that you were saying that that's what you believe would be a equitable contribution by each of these areas. And can you support $20 an hour?
Yeah, we would have to do that. I mean, the hours wouldn't change dramatically. We would take probably more out of the state formula grant. Because really, I mean, I wouldn't take more than an hour and a half a week out of the Frida. And I wouldn't take probably more than 2 hours a week out of the memory cafe.
Right.
Then we're playing with things. The state formula grant is there to fund whatever we need to do to keep us operational. So if we were to go up to 20, then I would end up taking it, as I did between 1850 and 19, out of the state formula grant.
So these numbers really have no relevance in terms of
Of 18.
where the person is devoting their time and energy.
Yes,
Well, it's.
yes, they do.
Yes.
For the memory cafe and the Frida grant, yes, they do.
But not for anything, not for the town budget, not for
Well, I mean,
the state formula grant.
everything else would fall under those 2 buckets. I mean, I don't know how you divide up the town budget into item, I mean, the Frida grant and the memory cafe are 2 very specific, functions within our, in the senior center. So I'm not quite sure how we would, if we wanted to take funding from the Frida grant to support this position, then I think, in honesty, what Joan would say, that she would spend maybe an hour and a half a week working on the van, and that would go to this new person.
Okay, but the person can just fill out a regular timesheet and doesn't have to fill it out
Right.
according to any.
No, Joan
I
fills
have
it out.
to, I
Joan
have to
fills it
submit
out.
it.
Joan fills it out, and she would have to fill it out with 4 line items, yes.
Okay, well,
And
whatever.
if we decide that, if Joan says this is crazy and I need to really just do the town budget and the state formula grant, she can do that. But that's why we're having this discussion, now. If it's easier to do that, then we can do that.
We need to use the grant. We have a grant for 2 years. We need to use it, so.
And part of the memory cafe was to support a person to help market it. And so that's where we got, and we basically had 2 hours a week in our grant application for that person. So it's, it's not numbers that we made up. I mean, it's just where the person will be spending that 3.5 hours a week, those particular 3.5 hours a week.
All right, well, good luck with that.
Thank you.
That's
Great
Joan's
job. I
recommendation.
would just round out the numbers. I mean, instead of using decimals, but other than
Yeah,
that, I think it's a great job.
Okay. So I mean, let's find out, Joan, if we could put on the job posting, and I don't know who, I guess when the PRF goes, when we hand the job posting in, if you want to do it from maybe 17 to 20 as a range, maybe that's, you know, in case we get somebody that has very little experience. I mean, I know we have some flexibility, but I don't want to say 1850 to 20, and then somebody really isn't hitting that 1850 caliber, so.
You know,
Right,
I think that's a fair assessment, because
Yeah.
if I was applying for a job, I wouldn't want to start at 17, but in my own mind, I would think I'll be somewhere in the middle.
Mhm.
I wouldn't think I was going to the top salary. I wouldn't think I was going to the bottom. I would, and that would put us right in play to what we want. Or what we hope.
So are people comfortable with like 17 to 20 as a, in the job posting?
I am.
Is that what you
Yeah,
said?
if
Lee?
they'll, if
Yes.
they'll pass it, it's fine with me.
Yeah, if they'll pass it,
think.
yeah.
Agree.
Okay, so we'll add that, Joan, okay?
Mhm.
All right. Always good discussion.
Mm,
All right, we done with this part?
Probably 20 minutes ago.
Okay, because, and the one last thing I want to do before we get into the nursing part, I think we already touched base on that. Joan, because we raised the minimum wage, that Flo will be, is it 14.25? Is that the minimum wage?
Yeah, she got a
Oh.
48-cent increase retroactive to January 1st. So she's very happy. I've already informed her.
She's
And I'll fill
never
out the
gonna
paperwork.
retire.
I'm glad. I don't want her to.
I just went offline and just came back, so I didn't hear anything that was discussed.
So did we make a motion to recommend? Can we have a motion to recommend from 17 to 20 for the salary range?
So moved.
Okay.
I'll
do we-
second.
Second, okay, can we go down and just take a vote as, again, as an advisory board? This is our recommendation. Lori,
Yes.
Jim,
Yes.
Sylvia,
Yes.
Josie,
Yes.
Jonathan,
Yes.
and Janet, yes. Okay, thank you. All right, to make it official.
Okay.
Okay, so the other,
And excuse me for interrupting, but Joan, you were talking when I came back online. Was that relative to this?
Yeah, Rini had mentioned earlier that the select board okayed many of our folks that were not at minimum wage, and one of them was our Flo Collins, who is our volunteer coordinator. So she has a 48-cent an hour raise retroactive to the 1st of January.
Great.
Oh, there's an extra $1.
The 14.25 is her hourly rate.
so, Joan, you want to talk a little bit about, and you and Rini and maybe the nursing program, because I know that Rini's was so helpful in getting a couple of interns to come in, but we have to put our vision together as to what those folks will be doing, and maybe we have a follow-up meeting to this to really make sure, because that gives Joan 2 more staff people to give pretty solid direction to, right? So. we
Once
need
a
to have
week.
that- We have to have that defined before they show up in February. So what were you, any thoughts?
Am I
from-
the only one that,
Go ahead.
am I the only one whose screen keeps freezing? Is that happening to anybody else?
Mm, And that I haven't seen it with anybody else, Jim.
Okay, I'm sorry. But
Sorry.
Because you're unique.
driving me nuts.
Joan, do you want me to start and just say?
I think, yeah, you're more familiar with what the whole thing is. Thank you for getting them on board. Please.
Okay, so I'm teaching a nursing course at UMass. It's for second bachelor nursing students. So this means people have a bachelor's degree in another field and come back for a bachelor's in nursing. And so this course that they're taking in the spring is their community clinical. So they have a course, which is their classroom course on community, and they look at epidemiology, they look at vulnerable populations, they look at a lot of health equity and things like that. In their clinical, they're placed in clinical settings where they work with an aggregate of people. So I have 9 students, 2 of them will be at the senior center, and the rest of them will be in a variety of places, community mental health settings. You know, they're all over from Springfield to Greenfield, actually. So the idea about having a student came up because there was some concerns about a number of things. And one is to make sure that when it comes to dementia, we also have a great center. Be great to be able to have some help for the semester to kind of jump, you know, into, you know, maybe some outreach, maybe some care of people in their homes with dementia, things that we might be able to do, that students may be able to do. So there'll be 2 of them working in pairs. I have their names. It's 2 women. And, you know, there's a number of ideas that I have around what they, you know, could do. I definitely would hope that they get involved in the Memory Cafe, although I don't believe that's happening on Wednesdays, it's Thursdays. But nonetheless, any outreach that they could do as a pair would be great. I've been wanting for a very long time to update our Code Red program. So working a little bit with the fire chief, who's our EMD coordinator. That goes along with making sure that the seniors in our community are aware of, you know, a lot of people gave up their landline, and I don't think the Code Red system in town has been updated in a long period of time. So who knows who gets messages. When the grenade was detonated up on the transfer station recently, it occurred to me that one of my daughter's best friends lives right up the street from me, right across from the transfer station. And she didn't know anything about Code Red. Thankfully, the police knocked on the doors of everybody that was near the transfer station to let them know what to expect. But anyway, so I'm hoping they can get involved in emergency preparedness, Code Red, a number of different things. So I'm thinking about focusing on people that are vulnerable, that might need additional assistance, people with dementia, family members of people with dementia. So, you know, kind of piggybacking on the whole Memory Cafe and focus on dementia, but also on emergency preparedness, given that we're in the middle of a pandemic still. So I'm just open. They'll be here from Wednesdays. Their clinical goes pretty much 8 to 5. Then they have a Zoom either during the day or at the end of the day. They have a Zoom conference with me from wherever they are, or later. We have to work that out. They actually have an orientation on the 27th or 26th of January in Springfield at the UMass site there. And then it's otherwise pretty much every Wednesday they're going to be available. So they can do teaching classes. They, you know, some groups are doing like a little mini class every other week with their population. So they could, you know, ensure, you know, they're gonna have plenty of time. They're supposed to do 9 hours a week total to get 3 credits. Some of it can be offsite, some of it be on-site, some of it can be outreach. Some of it can be accessing resources from Highland Valley or going to different places. So the main thing is they should be busy, and we should be, you know, clear on what they can do. And also, you know, there's a lot of backup because last year, I think they had to do a lot of remote things. So anyway, so that's the story. It's really about designing a program to meet the needs of a group of people. And what I've told them, and I can tell them every single week, is the most important thing is to get to know the population. If you're going to do a program to benefit a population, you have to know who the population is. So they need to have access to people. They might do a survey to see, you know, what classes would you like to learn about? Or they might do a focus group to say, you know, have you had a program on, you know, essential oils? Have you had a program on whatever? So anyway, that's the basis of it. They're supposed to assess a population as a whole and then plan some education or other projects to benefit the population over the course of the semester.
So will there be an actual form for like needs assessment or survey, or they're going to have to compile that?
They're going to have to compile it. That's part of their learning, is making sure that they know that the population might have visual issues, might have other, you know, issues. So they have to design something that's very appropriate. And that's part of, you know, learning about working with seniors as opposed to other populations like teenagers or whatever.
And it would be great if, I don't know if it's okay, but we could do some article in maybe the March or April newsletter about the program.
Absolutely. I would just, I think that if you and Janet and I or anybody else who might be interested could set up a meeting for either next week or the week after, and we could just brainstorm some things, that would be great. I'm going to be setting up appointments next week and the week after with all the sites where I have students. And I think this is just a great opportunity. I'm hoping that soon at the beginning of the semester, we might be able to have a meeting similar to what we had at the police station with the key people, so they can hear, firsthand about some circumstances that are concerning to us around the well-being of folks in town, and then brainstorming what things they can do.
That's great.
Just, you mentioned the code red and people who gave up their landlines. I still have a landline, but I get code red on my cell phone.
Mhm. Right, it's just if it's been input, that's,
Yeah.
that's the question.
Yeah, there's a
Jonathan,
link,
you,
I think on the website, I know that some people were referred recently to Ed Gibson. I don't know that that's a good, plan. Like, I don't think he needs to be the person that sets people up, but my daughter's friend up the street, she never had even heard of it. So, and she has 3 siblings that all live in town, and I said, yeah, let me know. I'm gonna help you all get set up. But I just think that no one has looked at like who's on it. There's so many people that don't know about it. So I want the students to actually help with that, because that's a huge emergency management thing. But if you have other suggestions about, really good projects, I think it'd be great if they do a little bit of outreach and just, do a survey, do a focus group, and just plan some projects.
So it's from February 1st till what, like May 5th or something, or is it that
Yeah,
long?
the last class, they have to do a poster presentation on, demographics of the community, demographics of the aggregate group and all that. And then probably some either health promotion or something theories. And so they present on the that last weekend, the first week in May. And then other than spring break, there's a couple of things. I'm going to show you a whole calendar. Because not everybody could, VNAs and hospices weren't very receptive to taking students. So there's a big hospice end of life component, but it's as a simulation in Springfield. So there's a week that they're tied up doing that. So there's a few things about the calendar, but it's plenty of time when they are scheduled. So hopefully they'll be busy and they can be of a help, as well as jumpstart some programming and whatever else.
so I'll reach out to you and Joan and try to schedule something for next week. How's that?
That'd be wonderful.
Okay, and
And if
maybe,
anybody has any other
fire chief.
suggestions, these are 2 interns that, my experience with this, these students are, they're really, that's why I like second bachelor students. They already have a bachelor's degree. They're eager to come back into another field. They usually graduated from a field that didn't give them a job, but it makes them a very eclectic group because they have backgrounds in international relations and kinesiology and, all kinds of things. So anyway, they tend to be very motivated.
Jonathan, did you have your hand up before? Yes.
Yeah, Rini, I think it's great. I
Mhm.
think it'd be great for them, especially, and we'll get something out of it. So just summarize, there's going to be 2 of them,
Mhm.
and it's going to be how many hours a week will they have?
It's 9 hours a week for the clinical, but 8 to 5 is mostly the time, but that can be flexible too, depending. Some of the sites aren't even open at 8. So Joan and I can work on that, but they're supposed to be putting a total of 9. In order to get 3 credits, it's a 1-to-3 ratio. They have to put in 9 hours of clinical, but it could involve behind the scenes research and developing the tools and questionnaires and things like that, but total of 9 on site and off.
Okay. No, that's great. I think it might be useful. I mean, a lot will depend on what happens with the program coordinator, but it will be for the senior center, but it will help to have someone help with the newsletter every now and then.
Oh,
too.
yeah, I definitely think they need to write an article for the newsletter. If not, soon have the next newsletter just say that they're going to be here and this is their names and they'll be here on, Wednesday, but then they need to, I think we're going to come up with a whole list of things that they would do. And one should be to write either a health promotion or something to do with emergency planning or something to do with memory issues or, I think that's kind of the focus of this. It came out of the concerned about people in the community with memory and dementia issues. So I think they should plan on doing something. I'm gonna make a list of things that they can do.
Great.
So I'm looking for suggestions too.
Good. Yeah, that should be, thank you for setting that up. That's terrific. So,
Fun.
okay. And anything else? We'll move along. I did have ARPA funds on here, and I know that, and I'm going to share a message I got from John Velas's staff, because he keeps telling people we're getting $50,000 for the COA. And so I keep asking and nobody knows anything about it. So I did ask his staff person some questions. And if you want to take a second just to read this. So it sounds like the funds will be good through 2026. They'll be distributed through Executive Office of Elder Affairs. So it's separate then from what the town is getting specifically. It'll be earmarked for the COA. I mean, that's pretty exciting. And again, we'll receive more detailed guidance towards the end of this month. So
So is the $50,000 spread out till 2026?
I think it has to be spent by then. I don't know that we have to, I don't have the details, and probably more detailed guidance of later this month. So hopefully by the next meeting, I'll have more information, but we'll kind of, I can't answer that question honestly, 100%. So
Janet, can I just add something that I think this is fantastic. You heard it was 50,000?
that's what John told Joan
That's-
when he was in the senior center,
that's-
right, Joan?
Yeah.
Yep, I will second that.
Yeah,
That's
Lori was
exactly what I
there.
told Joan.
Lori as a witness.
Yeah. So I just want to mention quickly that, the town has already gotten close to $100,000 of ARPA funds. And there's a survey that's going out, both paper copy and electronic, asking the residents how they think it should be spent. We have guidance on how it can be spent. It's the American Rescue Act funds. And they've given guidance. And so it's a good amount of money. So, I mean, a lot of ideas have been thrown around. Water department wants to use it for upgrading water pipes. We want to make sure that there's equity around internet access. People have talked about possibly limited sewer on Route 10. Like, so it's a good amount of money to get, something really more substantial started. So sooner rather than later, it's going to go out, the survey. So I really encourage everybody to fill out the survey and give some feedback, because it's a good amount of money. We want public input. But thus far, there've been two things that the ARPA funds have been authorized for. The first is that this Saturday is a COVID vaccine clinic at Norris Elementary School. And it's being run in conjunction with the Board of Health and the Northampton Health Department. And I think they were trying to get 60 new slots because they filled up very quickly. I'm kind of surprised that there are that many people that haven't been boosted, but good to know that it's happening. And so we had to cover custodial and also police detail. And then last night we approved $15,000 worth of rapid COVID testing kits. So hopefully that'll get ordered very quickly, and we'll be getting those within the next week or two. And
Wow.
the Board of Health is meeting on Monday and discussing distribution suggestions. So if you have suggestions about that, I imagine it'll be just get them out as much as possible. Library, schools, senior center, town hall.
We've had at least a dozen calls about it.
Yeah, we definitely need to get them out fast, but just want to let you know that that's what's happening with the ARPA funds so far.
Jonathan?
I don't remember seeing the survey. Where
It hasn't
It
gone
Hasn't
out
come
yet.
out yet. It'll
It
be out
hasn't been out
probably in
yet.
the next week.
Yeah, it'll go out. They're doing some tweaking and some test cases, and I'm gonna try to fool the survey and pick the wrong answer and see if it kicks back and things like that. So
Can I go back to
Just,
Code Red for a
Technology's a
minute?
great job.
The Code Red, could we put that in the newsletters to, if anybody wants to be on the Code Red, they could, I don't know who they should.
I wouldn't
Yes,
have,
sir.
is there a way to do it online? Queenie?
Yeah, there's a link for the website. I think that we can look into that. I think that if, I think recently when the whole issue came up, it was like, oh, contact Ed Gibson. I think somebody on Facebook had said that. It's like, no, that's not what we want our town administrator to be doing, frankly. So I think we should look into it. Maybe when we meet next week, we can kind of look on the website and see if it's a very simple process. We also should get a printout on who's on it. It might be very outdated, but that's the kind of legwork stuff that the students can work on. But definitely something in the newsletter about that. But I think that should be one of their projects.
Mhm.
So we'll save it for the next newsletter.
Yeah.
Yeah, we may send March out as a mass mailing. That's why I
fine.
just,
Okay, good, good, good. All right, well, the well check care calls, I think that's part of what we're gonna be working on with the UMass nurses, so.
Mhm.
And the donation we talked about briefly from the estate, and I think that comes to the end of my list of things. If not, is there any other business that can't wait till the next meeting that we didn't touch on? Oh, Sylvia.
Did you touch on the outreach for January, including articles in the Gazette and
Oh,
Reminder?
yep, I skipped that. Thank you very much. Somehow I skipped that. You're right, Memory Cafe. So we did talk about, thank you, Sylvia. We did talk about putting an article either in the Gazette or the Reminder for the Memory Cafe. So because we have limited, I'm gonna make a recommendation that we consider doing that after this one, when we have more open space and we can have food and things. Sylvia, if you're okay with that, because I think it's good to get some marketing, free marketing through an article and set up an interview with somebody at the Gazette and somebody at the Reminder at different times and stagger them so that, but I guess I don't, if we have to cut it off at 20, I know I'm idealistic to think all of a sudden the floodgates are gonna open up by an article in the Gazette. But I think those are very good marketing tools. And what would be the best way? I mean, if somebody would like to write an article, if we should sit with one of the folks from the paper and have a discussion, what works, what would people recommend?
I think the last couple of articles that have been written in the Gazette, one was about the East Street Bridge and the other one was about the cost efficiencies new committee. The
Mhm.
new writer for Southampton in the Gazette actually did an excellent job, I think, on both of those articles.
Yes.
Chris Fowles, I referred her to Chris Fowles. She was at the town meeting. I
Mhm.
think that, I think both, frankly. I mean, I think both
Yes.
of them have a pretty good viewer circulation in town.
And it
Okay.
was pretty detailed. Both articles were pretty detailed.
Yeah.
So what does
Yeah.
everybody think? I don't want to make the decision. Should we do it this month or should we wait and kind of get through COVID first? Or yes, Sylvia?
Well,
okay,
you know, even with COVID, I think if we might market it, let's start doing it now. You
Okay,
know, with all the changes that are happening, this is what's happening now. We hope that, you know, maybe we can give the person what to ask, you know, explain, and then the person will make the questions. But I think we should start now.
okay. I mean, it doesn't, I mean, even if we start now, it doesn't necessarily just have to be for the January. Yeah, so. What's anybody else thought on that? And that doesn't mean tomorrow, Joan. I see panic in your eyes. No.
Well,
Wait, the budget's due Monday. I can't do it this week.
you have these two students coming in. This is the perfect opportunity for them to put something together. I say, give it, you know, let the newspapers do the introductory. Just don't have anything in the center. Like a preview, like when we go to the movies, here are the previews of what's coming.
So I'm not, anything in the center, I'm not sure what.
You
maybe
know,
I'm-
not to bring them
Not
to
to bring 'em-
introduce the program, what the plans are. And we look forward to maybe, say, March, April. Because, I mean, no matter what, offer people food, they'll come.
Right, right. So, but we could start the process now.
so
Right.
you have the name of the writer. We can at least contact them and give them like a, you know, a window, just say, this is what we'd like, you know, I'm not sure.
Yeah. well, we
You
can
know the name,
communicate with
should
them.
I contact Chris Fowles or?
I think I have that. I'll have to look for the name. I think I can get the name. So I'll do that. Okay, Joan, so you don't, one less thing on your plate, okay? Jonathan?
I think we're making a mistake if we don't have them in the center. So when it's feasible to have them in the center, I think is when and there's a cafe going on, is when they should be there. I just think of the stories that I have found most appealing and that caused me to want to read them, even about other places that I don't frequent in other towns, that they have pictures. And I think it's usually a great publicity. So here, pictures of the activities going on with those with memory care issues and stuff.
We just have to make sure that they sign off for release that allow us
Yeah,
to.
we can't just.
Well,
vote.
sure. I mean, but I'm just saying, if we're going to do the publicity, I think if I was a reporter or an editor, I would say, look, I mean, let us in. I mean, this is what readers want. They
And
want
a
to see what
photo's
you're
worth
talking.
a
They want to see
thousand.
what you're talking about. We can always put a notice in if you want it. That Southampton's now doing the memory cafe. Go ahead and call Joan. Lennon, if you want more information. That they can always do. But this, for an actual story, a public interest, a human interest story,
Sure. Yep.
the photographs are very important.
And
Sylvia?
include the future dates. I mean, we
Yeah.
have dates, so.
Yeah. Well,
mean-
we don't have any photographs right now and releases to put into an article. So depending on what happens this month, if we could get, we would have to invite them into this one coming up unless we provide them pictures, and I'm not sure. So we'll talk to the writer and see what the recommendation is. But I agree, the pictures attract your vision to the story.
Yeah, the problem, of course, that we're having is COVID. I mean, it just makes it difficult to adequately plan this month, and this might not be the month in which
Right.
is a great month. It would be a great, if there's only a few people there, it might not be the month that we want, the pictures taken.
Especially if we only have 4 at a table.
Now I'm not worried about demonstrating good judgment, so. Anyway, we'll see. We'll chat with them. And anybody else have any thoughts, though? Because that means we won't do it until after the February one, right? So has Tony taken any pictures, Joan, or no?
Yes, I have a few.
But we'd have to have releases to use them, so.
So
Yeah, and I'm not sure if the reporter has, they like their own photos. I
Right,
mean,
right. I think the same, yeah. Jonathan?
but you say not until after for the February meeting, but we would try to have maybe someone come for the February meeting, and then the story
Right.
would appear afterwards and hopefully help for the March
possibly,
and
It's the
April
17th,
meetings.
17th of February.
Okay.
We'll
So-
talk to them.
So I have a question about the cafe, which is, are we starting to make the transition, or are we going to make a transition from golden memories or golden moments to being more of a town?
So I will
Yeah.
say, we had
Activity.
two new couples. We had, well, one was from Easthampton, but the other couple was from Southampton. But I don't know how we're gonna transition. I think we need to get more people aware of what a memory cafe is and what it has to offer. And, maybe the outreach with the nurses, maybe, if we can, we talked about publicizing it at hospital, doctor's offices, etc. But even the doctor's offices have been closing down. They're having, conference visits and things. So I would say little by little, we'll be getting more locals.
I mean, I don't think we're stopping a transition, Jonathan. I think we've tried to we'll continue to promote it and hopefully build the local, more local. And then we want it to be cross-community as well. That's part of the grant. But yeah, so the fact that we had 2 more couples outside of Golden Moments, so the word is starting to get out. It just will take some time for people to
Right.
adjust.
And my question is actually a little bit different, which is, what is the understanding with golden moments for the future?
They have in a field trip twice a month. One of their field trips is on our Memory Cafe Day.
For each month?
Yes.
For now. I mean, things are subject to change, but that's, they're partnering with us and, we'll build on top of their program as well. So,
No, I just wanted to know what the game plan was.
Right
That-
now,
No,
they're
you've
an
answered the
asset.
question. You've answered the question, both of you. I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
they're an asset to us. I mean, the program really is developed because of them. And they're teaching me things that maybe I wasn't aware of. So I think it's been a great asset to have them.
Yeah, I'm not talking about where we've been with them and where we are right now, just how we see the program going forward. That's all.
yeah, I mean, ideally, right, Joan, we would love to have a program coordinator that can help run it. We would love to have as many local people as possible that are able to participate as as they hear about us and are comfortable kind of coming in together and kind of sharing that part of their lives. So, any other thoughts on that, though? Those are good questions, Jonathan. Thank you. Anybody else? Anything else? Thanks, Sylvia, too. I'm sorry, I saw Memory Cafe and I didn't read the rest of the sentence. So on that note, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I will
So
make a
moved.
motion to adjourn.
Okay, that's Lori. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Josie. All right. All right, all in favor, Lori?
Yes.
Okay, Jim,
Yes.
Sylvia,
Yeah.
Josie,
Yes.
Jonathan,
Yes.
and Janet. Yes, thank you. And have a happy new year and stay safe. And we'll see you between now and next month, but definitely next month. So.